Today, I think that I would like to talk about perspectives. Now, if I hold up this piece of paper here and ask you, what do you see? You might say a circle. And I guess you'd be correct. There is a circle there. But then another person might say, oh, I see a piece of paper with a circle written onto it, drawn on it. And I would say, yeah, that's also correct. A third person might say, well, I see a man holding a piece of paper with a circle on it. And that person might also be considered correct. Another person might say, well, that's not a circle because not all the points are equal distance from the center. And technically, that would also be correct. Now, if you ask me what I see, I could not see any of those things. None of them. Because what I see is, in fact, a square. Okay? So now you can also see what I saw. Does that mean that your perception of what was you were looking at before is incorrect? No. It means it was incomplete. Now, if there's a guy sitting over there, you know what he's going to see? A triangle. Okay? So here we can have 3 different perspectives, minimum, of whatever I am holding. But because of where you are and because of where I am, that we can perceive only a bit of it. Okay? So this seems all quite obvious, but if you start to think about if we're going to investigate something, it doesn't really matter what it is, something you want to get to the bottom of, you want to understand better, well, then the more perspectives you get, then the closer you are coming to what it was really before you. And what's important here is to remember that my perspective is not the only correct perspective, and that all perspectives are incomplete in of themselves. If we can get that into our heads, then all of a sudden you find something that's quite a bit humbling. You find out that you're never completely right, but then again, you're never completely wrong either. So right and wrong just kind of fade away. It's no longer a question of if I'm right and you're wrong. The perspective that you have is valid for what you are. But because you are where you are in space, and I am where I am in my space, we see different things. Okay? And that's kind of obvious, but it's also important to consider that. Now, not only is the space of where I sit and perceive it important, but also my past experience dictates what I will experience from that perspective. You see, I'm sitting here in my bedroom in front of the computer. If I leave here and invite somebody else to come sit here in my place, they're not going to experience the same thing as I am. They'll be in the same space, they'll be looking at the same thing, but their experience of it will be different. We will, of course, agree on very many things of what it is to experience sitting here, but we will never be in a total agreement because we have different perspectives. If you're open enough to another person's perspective, well, then you can learn quite a bit. So if we really want to investigate something, if we want to get closer to the truth, then the more open we are, and the more humble we are to other people's experiences, the more we are inviting other people to communicate with us what they are experiencing in that situation, what they see, what they think about what they see, what they feel about what they see. And if we can be open to that without disregarding it as false, but perhaps incomplete, which doesn't mean that we have the complete picture, then we can get closer to the truth. Now, the truth is a weird thing because the truth is much bigger than language, so you can never tell anybody what the truth is. Now, you might be able to come up with some examples like, the truth is that if I drop a stone, it's going to fall down. Well, that depends on how you experience gravity also. We can be in agreement, you and I, that would be taking place. But a person on the other side of the planet, if they could perceive that, would see that thing falling up. Also, if you were astrophysical, you would say, well, the thing is not being falling down so much as that space is pushing it down because space is warped. I don't know. So there's never can say the whole truth. That is also something we must take into consideration with deepest humbleness when we are discussing issues with other people. Um, and it becomes alpha and omega if we're going to be relating to other people, other cultures, um, other times for that matter. You know, my children are experiencing things way different than what I experienced as at their age. And not only that, as being a 20-year-old and being a 50-year-old experiencing the same thing is quite different. Looking at the same thing, and the experience is completely different. Because of my experiences, my life between 20 and 50, such on such like this. Um, so so if we really are interested in living more peacefully, more harmony uh, with each other, with the environment, we need to consider this. I think that's about the most of what I wanted to say here. There was one more thing. Because not only can my perspective be in space and time, but there's also magnitudes of perspective, right? So if I took a microscope and I looked at my finger, I might see skin cells. I might see dead skin cells for that matter. I might see cells that are dying for that matter, or cells that are being born, um, depending on what kind of microscope I have, of course. But if I take away that microscope and I use a magnifying glass, well, then I will see a magnificent swirl of fingerprints, each fingerprint having pores on it, which exuberates sweat, for example. Take away the magnifying glass, and then I see a finger, a digit on the hand, and which finger it is, I might be able to figure that out as well. Go a step back, and then I will see that that is a hand. I'm looking at a hand on a human being. Further back, I'm just seeing the whole human being. I don't really see fingers or fingerprints. And if I go 100 yards away, I don't even see if it's a man or a woman. If I go 500 meters away, I just see that it's something alive moving around. And if I go further and further away, it becomes less and less obvious of what I'm looking at. And eventually I can't even see what's there, which doesn't mean it's not there anymore. So this is orders of magnitude, can we call it? And this is also a part of perspective. So if you want to get the big picture, stepping back, you're going to miss a lot of the small stuff. And if you get really close and look at the details of every small thing, then you're not going to get the big picture. So that's why it's important to collaborate with different perspectives, different people, or even consider in your head the perspective of, for example, a bacteria in my gut, or a colony of bacteria in my gut, which I can't really see, but has a profound effect on my being. So I would also consider their perspective as well, or the perspective of the whole planet, of course, the climate, the air I breathe, the water I drink, which I have to share with everybody around me, and the animals and the plants and such. So perspective is quite an important thing to consider. And I think that if we can all be a bit open and understanding of such a thing, that we'll find a little bit more harmony in our lives and in our humanity. So, peace.